Right, I've got 9:30. Good evening everybody, welcome to Hilton Parish Council Meeting, Monday the 1st of November 2021, and as some of us have learnt already tonight, Ian Stott's birthday. So happy birthday Ian, thank you for coming along. The first item on the agenda is to receive any apologies for absence and declarations of interest. We have 2 apologies for absence from Councillors Chambers and Barradell. Any declarations of interest? Kieran?
Yeah, item 22-130.
Yeah.
And I'm saying.
We'll ask you to leave the room when that item is discussed, if that's okay. Any other? Nope, good.
I'd like to make a couple of comments, if that's okay.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
So that is the first item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is we close the Parish Council meeting and open it to the floor, which allows members of the public, County and District Councillors to make comment. Rob, fire away.
Just a couple of comments on the current agenda items. On item 134 relating to the fireworks event, could I request, if it's not already in the plan, that the Parish Council ask the organisers to remove the existing pile of rubbish that's been there for about a month on the bonfire spot in order to allow any hedgehogs or other animals to escape before rebuilding it on the day and lighting it. Second one, item 137. I must declare that I am a member of the Community Garden Committee. I just wanted to add the extra information and perhaps request closure or removal of that item, as the Garden Committee did notify the Parish Council on the 30th of September that the event was occurring, to which Nicola, on behalf of the Council, acknowledged that and thanked us for the notification on the 4th of October. Both myself and Councillor Heather Chambers, who is the chair of the Garden Committee, were in attendance on the 4th of October meeting, so could have covered it if we'd been aware that we needed to actually formally ask for permission via the Council. So the event went ahead successfully and well received by the community, I think. It wasn't until we saw the draft minutes for this meeting that we realised there was some problem. We would prefer, we're always happy to take advice and would have accepted a notification, would have had it resolved promptly had we been aware. We're a new group, so we're not practised at all the various items. I feel that the sort of public reprimand isn't really in the spirit of what we're all trying to do in terms of improving and benefiting the community. So I'd ask that perhaps that item could be removed from the agenda.
Thank you, Rob.
With the lessons learned.
We'll discuss that when we get to it.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to say anything? Councillor?
County Council report. I'm pleased to report that we're actually getting on with some business at long last. I spent most of the last 6 months telling you I'm waiting for something to happen, but it is beginning to now. The highways panel has been meeting, which will ultimately lead on the Potton Road LA China. It's been approved, but it's got to go through the safety audit, which it has done. I think the clerk was copied in as well as me saying it got through the safety audit. I'm pleased to say that the transport group at the minute, one of the things they seem to be coming out is the fact that they want traffic out of villages, which I read as a good thing rather than anything else. They haven't said much more on it yet, but they are reporting shortly, and we will have a report at the highways meeting this week, the proper build out on that shortly thereafter, and that will give us a real sense of direction on where that's going. And I think coupled with the fact that I have said before that the whole thing's a bit Cambridge-centric in the sense that there's a lot of cycling and walking involved in there. There's nothing wrong with that at all if you're in Cambridge. It's a bit difficult when you're outside. But it does lead to these other things where they have taken some of the hints that were dropped about looking at the villages outside of the Cambridge area entirely and starting to consider, you know, where I mean, let's be honest, vehicles are going to go from A to B somehow, but at the moment the routes are a bit ancient and follow what's been done for years. It might not necessarily be right. I mean, we go back 20 years ago when the average truck going through this village was probably 16 tonne maximum if you were lucky. You can get 40 tonne pluses coming through now and there's nothing to stop them. So hopefully the routing, you know, will solve that, and with a 7.5 tonne limit on there, full stop, it'll be good news on that one. Other thing I was pleased to see was the county's nearly finished the rollout of the super fast broadband, and I think this village is one of the last to have it fitted, so that's coming here soon. And I think it's important that you know, as I say, this and the other villages that I represent are some of the last, for no reason other than they are. I think it's important that we get it, because the fact that for the last 2 years have shown us nothing else. Working from home, if you haven't got good, updated, fast connectivity, you can't even consider working from home properly. So I think it's an important way to do things in the future. So I think that's good news as well. Budget-wise, we're starting on the early parts of the budget. Wait and see from next week's full council meeting roughly where that direction travels there. You know, the general consensus seems to be that there might be some extra spending, but where exactly that's going to come from, no one knows yet, so I can't say whether it's going to be precept or, you know, creative accounting or removing money from reserves. Although saying that, there seems to be a trend at the minute to actually put more money into reserves, and as with any other council, there's pressures to make sure you've got the right amount, that if things go terribly wrong, you can at least run all your services for a while. So that's quite good. There's a big problem, as you may have noticed, over the weekend with COVID in Huntingdonshire, Cambridgeshire, the whole lot of us. You know, we've effectively got as near as you can into special measures over the past few days, mostly around the schools. In all honesty, that's where there seems to be the biggest problem. The kids are quite happily going there and collecting it and passing it on. Of course, they don't really get it, but in terms of themselves, but it is spreading wildly, so it's a difficult one. And you know, at the weekend the government did agree that, I can't remember the exact term they used, but we would be in this special category, and there's extra effort being made to make sure the fact that the children who can now have COVID jabs are coming forward and getting them done, people who've been missed the first time for whatever reason are brought forward, and just reminding us of all the general things we should be doing. It's a bit boring to keep saying it, but it's a fact of life really. So you know, there's no hint at the moment that we're going to go back to the good old days of staying at home and wearing masks everywhere we go, but you know, it's still showing that it's definitely still out there. The other thing that is being pushed as well is by the public health team is getting your flu jabs, because obviously whilst you wouldn't want COVID or flu, you definitely don't want both of them at the same time, which is a possibility. So all that type of thing is hugely important. There's talk at the moment about budgets where schools are concerned. I know you don't actually have a school in the village, but obviously you do support the children going to the one in Fenstanton. So, you know, I'm pleased to hear this talk of, you know, more money being available from central government for that, for various things. But we'll see. Once again, it's like in the past. I remember when I was a school governor in St Ives, we had this news that we've got this great amount of money coming. Well, it turned out we could have, I can't remember the exact figures now, but it was like £3,000 to do up the staff room. And nothing else. I thought, well, yeah, but we actually got a great staff room. We could do a bit more in the library. The message came back, staff room, or give it back. I hope it's, you know, here's the money, do what you think's right in your school, headmaster, headmistress, or whatever. So, and that's generally it at the minute, but things are moving. Last one that's definitely on the move, and I nearly forgot, flooding has come to the top of the agenda at long last. I've got access to a highways officer at the minute, because we haven't actually got a senior highways officer in this area. We've got one who's been lent to me, not me personally, but to the Huntingdon area members, and he's come out a couple of times, had some issues in Henfield Grey and Henfield Hamlets the other week. He came out on a Saturday with one of his colleagues on the day they don't normally work, and walked round and did a good job of work with us and picked up. So, and he's offered to do the same. So if we have got issues here where we need to get out, what we need to do is, rather than piecemeal them, almost say, Phil, can you and Simon come out again, choose a day and get out there, a couple of us, and just get the message out there. But it is good because it does two things. Number one, he comes out. Number two, he also does what he says he's going to do. So the potholes that we were looking at were filled in. He was quite honest about the drains. He said, from what I'm seeing, they're pumping out the actual sumps, but I'm not sure what's happening with the pipes in between. So, and I like that honesty. I'm not sure I like the message, but I like the honesty at least. And so, you know, it will be useful to us. So bear that in mind as well. Although we haven't got an officer you can actually ring up, you can come to me and say, can we get filling the others out and at least get something moving. It means we're not sitting here waiting for another 6 months for someone to turn up and do it. And that's about it, unless anyone's got any questions on county issues.
Can I ask a question, Doug? Just a
Yeah.
clarification on the broadband you mentioned, Doug.
Yeah.
What extra services are we going to get here?
Well, actually, I think it's actually just having the facility to have it faster. That's the real issue. This is something that's been kicking around with the county council. If I remember right, it's about a 4-year project. It's been a long, long while coming. And it's really just a matter of getting the high speeds up, rather than the fact that I think there'll be extra services and so. Just the fact that to get the best of it's like when you're working from home and using certain graphics and whatever else. You know, I found, because I've got a high-speed hub right outside my house for no reason other than it's there, I didn't get it by favouritism. I work so well from home, and you know, and I think it gives us that opportunity. And with things being blunt with you, there's television. You know, you only have to look at Sky TV. Has now decided it's going to come down from the sky and go into, you know, broadband. Once again, if you're going to want to do that sort of thing as well, I think it's important to have it. So it's good for the whole county to have it.
I thought we had as fast as we were going to get until we went fibre to the premises.
No, apparently it does increase it. I'll try and find out more and get
Yeah,
it.
would you? Because I'm the broadband
brief
champion, and we went as fast as we could get here before we went to the next generation, which was fibre to the premises.
Let's have a chat off and find out what I can for you.
Good news.
No problem.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks, Doug. And you're going to hang around for a couple of items on the agenda. We're going to move something up the agenda so you can go and enjoy the rest of the birthday. Thank you very much. I'll close the open session of the meeting and open the Parish Council meeting again. Item 125 is to approve the minutes of the Parish Council meeting held on Monday, the 4th of October. A month ago. You've all had these, and hopefully if you've had any queries, we can let Nicola know. So I propose that we adopt those minutes. All those in favour? No? Yes? Ed wasn't here.
I was there, I was there.
You weren't there either? No. Yeah, no, I do apologise. Yes.
Okay.
I was looking down, yes.
Yeah.
And Sharon wasn't there?
No.
I know. So the rest of us are voting in favour. That's it, yeah. Yeah. Right, next item on the agenda is matters arising from the last meeting, Clerk's report. Nicola, over to you.
So, as Doug mentioned, with our 2021 LHI bid for the 7.5-tonne weight limit, we've now got the support of policy and regulation to pass the safety audit. So the next stage is to proceed with the formal process of implementing the weight limit. The firework night posters are on the notice board, and they've also gone in Spectrum on the website and Facebook page. Unfortunately, Spectrum's come out a week late this month, so hopefully it will hit your doorsteps before firework night, but possibly not. The error on the WI bench was an engraver's typo, and it's now been corrected. The maintenance contract tender document has been advertised on the contract finder and also on the Parish Council website. Some interest has been shown, but no quotes have yet been received. I have spoken with the Highways England team and advised them that the Parish Council would like to proceed with the A14 Legacy project to the Ware. I've also approached the Highways Department for permission at the County Council, but I haven't had a response yet. I have cancelled the diffusion tubes, but we do expect to get one more invoice for the last set of tubes that was removed last month. The Pro-Zoom account has now been cancelled. Zoom can still be used for working groups, but it will be limited to 40 minutes where there are 3 or more participants. The deadline for submitting the preset request has come in as Friday the 17th of December. The Pavilion Working Group have scheduled a meeting, and they're meeting on Wednesday the 10th of November. and I have registered Peter to speak at the A428 Development Consent Order issue specific hearing, number 5, with regards to highways matters, including construction traffic through the village. That's me done.
Thank you. Well, not quite, is it?
Not quite.
No.
On that one.
That's that one. Everybody happy with that report? And so we'll go on to 127, which is to review and ratify the decisions made under the scheme of delegation, which is also going to take through
The council to provide with an accurate number of people attending the bonfire and firework event on Saturday. So we've purchased 2 tally counters for the princely sum of £4.99 plus VAT. That was requested by Sharon and Peter was consulted. Peter and Graham attended and were registered to speak at the District Council's Development Management Committee with regards to the planning matter on the agenda on Monday the 18th of August. Peter has authorised the purchase of 3 bags of postcrete for the installation of the fence by the pavilion, which was requested by Graham. The installation of the superfast broadband mentioned by Doug was delayed as the contractor who was subcontracting to the subcontractor of Openreach and the County Council's Connecting Communities team weren't actually aware that the green was owned by the Parish Council. So once they found that out, they had to stop the work in order to obtain permission, which was then given. So they have agreed, the contractor that I spoke to has agreed to lift the turf and replace it rather than just laying grass seed, and that the junction boxes, which are required, I think every 100 metres he was telling me, will be as unobtrusive as possible. And Dunner Dry has recently been sold. The new owners have signed the deed of covenant, which confirms that they will comply with the recently agreed deed of easement, and authorisation was given to the solicitors to provide a written certificate on behalf of the Parish Council confirming receipt of this deed, which will be invoiced and paid, or has been paid now, by the new owners. So Peter was consulted on that one. And now I'm done for the second one.
Any questions? No? Okay, lovely. We're going to move.
Would you like to ratify those decisions?
Oh, yeah. I propose that we ratify those decisions. Kieran seconding. All in favour? Yeah, that's everything sweet. Thank you. Right, I'm moving item 129 up the agenda here, which is to discuss and decide upon any actions regarding the outline planning application for 16 houses on Church End, west of Wychwood. So I can say a couple of things, or I can, well, on the evening this application was reduced from 18 to 16, which would potentially mean a drop in the number of affordable houses on the scheme by 1. Long debate. Again, I spoke on behalf of the parish, lining out our objections to the scheme, but whereas the first meeting went to, it was 7-7 with the chairs casting vote against. On this occasion, the vote was 9-3 in favour. Now, you'll see we wrote to Councillor Doug as head of that committee, asking a number of questions. Now, Doug has got some of the answers to that, but he suggested to me that we meet and discuss that before we provide a full report to the Parish Council, because on the face of it, there's little we can do. Huntingdon District Council are the planning authority, the decision-making authority, and they won't be submitting the plans back to the village for comment. So, with your permission, I would like to propose that I'll meet up with Doug and discuss the matter further and report back at the next Parish Council meeting, which will be at the beginning of December. And then, but if you've got comments to make, please make them now.
I just wondered whether Doug could give us any kind of background on how that decision came about, because
well, I can and I can't. It's I chair the Development Management Committee at the District Council, but unlike a lot of the councils in the country, we have an executive leader and cabinet system, which means that most of the powers that used to sit with, do you know, Pre-Newborn when she lived in the village? She used to be the planning chairman in her days. She actually chaired the planning committee and was in charge of the planning department. Well, there's now an executive councillor who does everything other than actually chairs the meeting. So the only thing I do is I chair the meeting, say only, but I chair the meeting, so I can't set the agendas, I can't decide what's on it, the order on, I can change the order with members' permission or not, but I can't put anything on or off of the agenda. So what actually happened was we had a meeting where, as the chairman quite rightly said, and it is a public vote, so there's nothing I'm saying wrong in that. It came down to my casting vote. We voted against it, and I felt on the night there was a fair debate, and it went the right way. There was then some legal argument that came in from the applicants about the order of the meeting and the way it had been put together. There was some suggestion around the fact that the legal advice that we were given on the night and beyond may not have been correct, and we should have actually taken the vote. The vote was taken, approve or not. It should have been done in two halves, and there was a challenge on that. That then got referred, I think, and from what I've seen, to the council barrister, who actually agreed and said yes, it should have been done that way. The officers in the legal team on the night should have actually pointed this in the right direction. And as you'll recall, on the first meeting, the legal officer there got over, in my opinion, over involved. It actually helped, but it didn't help. And I think if he'd have paid more attention, he might have been, Doug, you really need to now run this the other way around. And that's the crux of it. So it then came back to us. It was put back on the agenda with the executive members' behest to do it the right way around. The applicants then reduced the number and effectively withdrew their original application, which meant that you had to run the whole thing on the new lower numbers, which I know all sounds a bit nonsensical, but that's basically what we set out today. That wasn't helped greatly by the fact that with the lower numbers, one or two members, you know, felt slightly the other way, but I think there was also a different mix of members. I don't know if you noticed that. There was 3 or 4 people who were very much on side the first time, who weren't at the second meeting, and there was different people who had different opinions, so I don't think that helped greatly. But the point we're at now, I think, and the finish of the email I wrote to you today, is the only route now is to look at, you know, whether or not you want to consider doing a JR on it. And I'm not saying you should, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I have been involved with one in the past, one of my parishes, where they have, and they were successful. I've been involved in a couple where they weren't, so I'm saying don't dismiss it, and that's why I've said, you know, I can't formally lead on it because I'm not your district council. I'm happy to sit down with the chairman and say, look, these are the options, and for example, I can introduce you to the clerk from that council, say, have a chat, how did you get there, how did it work, you know, what's the mechanisms, because there are ways of doing it. And I don't know what they are, just know they did it and it worked for them.
Yeah.
I
So,
find it odd that they're allowed to change the application so close to the review
um,
and skip all of the process. Because on appearance it could seem, and it sounds like it did, that it's making it better.
yeah.
But they've not gone through any consultation or any real
No.
facts on that. It's almost influencing people without facts.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to disagree with that viewpoint of it, but as you may notice from although I sent the email, you know, obviously the officers put together the words around that, when something comes in and it's for less than you started with, they don't even need under the current rules to reconsult. And it even gets more ridiculous than that. Say the first application was refused but stood and it had gone to appeal, they can actually change the whole thing in front of the inspector while it's actually running without coming back to any of us, either the district council or the parish. So the whole system's a bit, you know, sometimes doesn't seem fair, I would say, but it is what we've got. So, you know, like it or lump it, we have to work with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. What struck me at that meeting was that the decision was made by a lot of people who know nothing about Hilton, because they don't care, because they want affordable housing, and they saw this. So much debate was about the lack of affordable housing that's being built within Huntingdonshire, Cambridgeshire, and that seemed to be the driving force. It didn't matter that we breached one of their own conditions about sustainability. One councillor said sustainability doesn't matter for villages, it can't be met. Well, it's a condition of the policy.
Yeah, there was certainly a different set of viewpoints, wasn't there? And it wasn't just, you know, the fact it was the same people. It was some of the same people. So, I mean, to be fair, one of the members said the first time around, he thought the whole scheme was a great idea, we should do it, and he stuck to it all the way through. You know, You know, and you know, he was consistent. There were some who simply weren't there the first time and came in with a very different viewpoint and were very much policy driven. Whereas I felt the first time we actually looked at it and said what's right in the local area, and it went that way. No, it came down to a casting vote, which is never, it's never the best way to do it, but sometimes you have to, you know. And
you said there was consideration in that first meeting that there was a drive to meet the housing needs, the affordable housing needs of people who live 2 A14s away, and that you're taking them from their communities and their schools to a different community, different schools, to a village where you have to have access to a motor vehicle.
But I don't know how that much that was influenced by that sort of, although they didn't get the full barrister's opinion, they got a process of it. The fact that the barrister said that that's the council's barrister, in his opinion, it didn't matter. He looked at other cases where similar things had come along and the inspectors had just awarded against it and said, you know, actually we're looking at, you know, parish boundaries, not what the infrastructure is in between.
Yeah.
And that was the message I think that pretty clearly came back from. So there's a different legal officer who actually, from my way of thinking, is far more kept out of it, except when he needed to. But at least that was the way it went. And I think, as I say, the web members there were far more policy driven, whereas you get some members who go, actually, we've got our policies, but let's see how this works on the ground. And people there on the night were definitely...
We need to do it.
Yeah.
We need to do it. So, unfortunately, on that occasion, it was voted 9-3 in favour. As you can, if you can add up, that's 12 votes, whereas previously there were 14. So there were a couple of people who weren't there. At least.
No, I think there was something like 5 missing the first time, and the other, sorry, there was 4 missing from the first time, and 2 came in who weren't there before. Yeah. So I think that's where the balance went.
Yeah, so sad that the decision was made on the flip of who's there and who isn't. Really. Any other questions that are John, you've got go.
I've just been through a judicial review regarding 10 acres of land in Rugby, which. Initially we lost 10-1. It went to appeal and we have won the appeal. But if you lose this JR, how much is it going to cost the village?
Well, don't know, that's why I wanted to meet up and talk about it.
And that's also why I suggested to the chairman and the clerk they have a word with this other village, because they can give you an idea of what the cost will involve for them. I mean, it will be for you, but if they say, look, the cost were X thousand, you go, oh heck, at least you know what their problem was. It wasn't the same as yours, but it was, a similar small village with issues where they didn't want an infill of housing. Yeah. So you can have that chat, at least find that out. I mean, and you're quite right. As soon as you get the law involved, all you know is
going to cost us thousands.
Yeah,
we lost it. Yeah.
Well, it could do on the JR point of view. You're going to end up with a certain cost anyway, even if you win it. So, but what it does do is what it can do is the JR can say, actually, we feel the decision was made right, in which case it's tough. Yeah. Or actually, no, it wasn't, send it back and do it again. So we would go through the whole rigmarole the third time.
And then lose it.
No, we don't know.
We don't know. So, my proposal is that I'll meet up with Doug and report back at the next meeting, find out some information, talk to these other councils, try and get an idea of costs and that.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Is there any time limit on starting the process of a judicial review? I'm just wondering how much time you have to talk and you have to agree.
No, you've got many months on it. It's not a fact if you don't get it in this week. It's not the one that was done before. I think it took about 6 months to get out before it actually went to it.
I think it can go longer. Their plans for the revised housing thing and get agreed that was going to provide sufficient, or the number of affordable homes within that. So the plans still have to be redrawn and resubmitted, but not to us. They'll go to district council.
But I think that's one of the things, again, is a question to ask the other council what their timing was on that and what pressure they had.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was outlined, and they have to go back through planning with the firm proposals, but that doesn't come to the Parish Council of comment. It tells what other comments we can make. Okay? Is everybody happy with that? And of course, we'll meet up between now and the next meeting, and I'll report back at the next meeting. I propose that. Thank you, Rob. All those in favour? Excellent, thank you very much. Good. So, Doug, thank you very much for coming.
No, my pleasure.
The only other thing that's on the agenda is the box cam up, but I'll talk to you about that when I see
Yeah.
you.
Please do. And the only other thing that I've got certain interest in, because our scrutiny panel's looking at on Wednesday as well, is the landscape and townscape supplementary document in due course. So it's worth your while having a peek.
Yes. Yeah, we will.
Okay, I'll be here for a little while and then I'll disappear.
Yeah. Be quiet if you go. Thank you very much, Doug. Thank you. Right, number 128 is Green Open Spaces Working Group. Lots of things on the agenda to be discussed here, like those things. So, Ian, I think you're going to lead on this, aren't you?
Nothing too contentious, I hope. Thank you, Peter.
Birthday boy, as they say. In some circles. Sorry.
Dear me. We've here got the verbal report. To let you know that the tree register that we've been asked to do by the insurance people, the first draft has now been completed. So Nicola and I went around the village and examined all our trees. Don't ask me how many there are, I ran out of fingers. There's a lot. So that's now a working document. As you're aware, the maintenance tender has been advertised. We mentioned that earlier on. So, on to number 1282, possibility of doing some dredging. As you're aware, the A14 Legacy Fund is going to be doing some work in the Wear, and it seems only appropriate that we use the opportunity to have that area, the silt took out of it. There has been a little bit of discussion about this subject with a parishioner who is close by, and there's a little bit of uncertainty as to just when it was last dug out. I thought it was a number of years ago. He believes it was about 8 years ago. Certainly, I don't believe the parish council has paid for it within that period of time, whereas previously it always used to pay for it to be dredged. So we may try and do a little bit more digging on that to find out just what has happened. Whatever, there is a lot of silt in there at the moment. We've had these several flood events over the last few years, and of course a lot does get deposited within that area, both those two ponds down Gravely Way. When the work group met a couple of weeks ago, so we felt it was worthwhile looking into having that redredged, and what came out just a couple of days later was a note from County, saying that there's now the Community Flood Groups Action Scheme, and the first of these applications will be looked at in early December. So it's only just been announced that we'll have the option of doing this. So the idea is that we can apply for a grant to have that done. So what I'm hoping is that we can get some prices on that, and then also see if we can get some funding for it. So
Do you know when the application for the grant has to be?
we don't. All we know is they'll be looking at them in early December. I don't believe we have notification of just when the first application will need to be in. Now, as well as the two ponds I've spoken of, it's unfair to say that the pond at Park Farm, again, that acts as quite a bit of a sump for silt. If you think about it, it's the first bit of calm water as you come down that watercourse. So I said that is reasonably high with silt at the moment. So it would perhaps be worthwhile running that in with the other two as well, so having 3 done. Because the other one is Reed Ditch. We know that was last done in 2003, but we also know there's an awful lot of silt in there, because we were hoping to have that done. So it would be worthwhile looking at having that done as well. We're adding up, aren't we?
Mm.
One of the problems with the Reed Ditch is that it's not part of the watercourse. So I very much doubt whether we can apply for a grant to having that done. That would probably have to be funded by another organisation, possibly ourselves. So that's where we are with those.
Ian, can I just
Yes, yes.
do they take the silt away? Like how, when it's dredged, do you literally like empty it and take it away, or?
The silt that comes out,
Yeah,
that is then disposed of.
right.
Over the last few years, it has been redefined as a biohazard. So disposal is not quite as easy as it used to be.
Right.
But that's all I know. I don't know quite what happens to it.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
But yes. Right, the other one, 1283.
Sorry, Ian, was there a resolution?
Oh, beg your pardon. Oh, sorry, that's true. Yes, yes. I guess we're looking for the applying for quotes, or looking into getting quotes for having that dredging carried out. So that's really what I'm looking for.
And to apply for one of the grants.
And to apply for one of the grants, yes, where appropriate.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm proposing.
Sharon seconds it.
Yeah,
And in favour?
that's good. Thank you. Lovely. 1283. The path between the church and Church Lane. Thank you very much for your photographic skills. Well, at least I get the gist of it. So the 2 photographs in front of you look at that path. You may recall that the subject of this path was brought to our attention by a parishioner, I think it was early on last year. There are a few trip hazards along there, and in fact I was talking to somebody in the village today who's a wheelchair user, and he's finding it a little bit difficult getting down that path there. So when the work group met, we decided that really it was down to probably 2 different options, labelled here A and B. So A would be similar to the other paths that we had done by our contractor, which was 3 years ago now? 2 years ago?
2 years, isn't it?
2 years, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Recently.
Recently. Pre-COVID, put it that way. And what that was, the method used there was to dig out, put MOT in there, which was packed down hard, and then a topping of gravel. So that's what we've got on the paths currently. So that was one proposition. The other proposition was to possibly go for something similar to that that's in the churchyard. I don't know just how the mechanics of getting that done, but one would imagine that it's dug out, a good firm base established, whether it's with MOT or what, I don't know, and then a resin-bound gravel is put on top. So that gives a more solid surface to the path. I would suggest, I don't know, that the B is probably a little bit more expensive. I said those are the 2 options that the work group looked at. Do the rest of the PC members wish to pass comment on those?
Can I just say, for disabled access, I definitely think we've got to go for some solid, compacted matter, because there is no other access to the church other than along the gravel pathway. So if you're pushing a wheelchair or you've got a wheelchair user, it's virtually impossible to get along the gravel paths because of the edges, and it's quite hard. I mean, even if you park on the green and then get wheelchair across, it's really bumpy.
Right.
So I think for disabled access, it just definitely needs to be a firm surface.
Firm surface. And obviously the one thing there is that the path is somewhat wider than most of the paths we've got around the rest of the village.
And it does need to be wider.
Yeah.
Because I've tried to push a wheelchair from my house to the churchyard through the gravel, and it's really difficult.
It can't work.
It is.
Right.
And anyone self-propelling, they just wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
I don't think. So, and that goes for pram users and anyone with a, mobility vehicle or scooter.
Sure. Okay.
I assume go out for quote for both sort of options, rather than selecting one and going at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting to see if there was a definite feeling one or the other.
I think with Sharon,
Right.
depending on price, the resident bounds will be probably faster periods. So
Right.
it's in keeping with the church, and that's quite a well-used path, isn't it, to a road, so it kind of makes sense. But I think if you're going for tender to ask for a price for both, it'll probably be sensible, and you can weigh up the options.
Now, I'm going to close the Parish Council meeting. Rob, you wanted to say something?
Just a helpful comment. I think if you find yourself the resin gravel is too expensive, and it is expensive, have a look at the self-binding gravel we've used on the community garden, which is wheelchair friendly, and it's almost as cheap as gravel. So.
Thank you. Okay. I shall open the Parish Council meeting again. Thank you very much for that input, so that would be worthwhile.
So is the motion to collect the quotes?
What's the motion, Ian?
Yes.
Yes. The motion is to get quotes on 3 options.
Yes, just
Yeah.
writing self-binding gravel down,
Yeah.
so don't forget.
Yeah.
Because now I'm having a little birthday, I'm not very good on it. Right. So go for the 3 quotes.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the best way forward.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah. So that's the proposal. I think it's been seconded.
All in
All
favour?
in favour? Thank you.
Thank you. And you bring that back to a meeting once you've got the quotes.
Thank you.
All agreed?
Right, next one is the bench. That's right. This is the donation from the now defunct wildlife group. So we first visited this subject a few months ago now, and I went back to the group just to see if there was more clarification from them. And in discussion with them, they said, yep, still like to go ahead with that, but they just threw into the pot the possibility of looking at a recycled plastic bench. The reason for looking at that is that they are a little more vandal-proof, and the thought was that because it's a distance away, then it could be out of sight and possibly more prone to vandalism. I must say that having given the matter quite a bit of thought subsequently, I've come to the conclusion that most of the vandalism that we get to things like benches, etc., is usually where we have something in association with the street light, because it's where they tend to gather. I shouldn't use that word, should I? You know what I'm getting at. Where gatherings take place during the winter months, and just sit there in idle curiosity and carry out a bit of vandalism. Obviously in that location there is no street light anywhere near it, so that perhaps slightly reduces the risk of vandalism over there. When we discussed it in the work group, I think fair to say that probably the meeting concluded it would probably prefer to go for wooden rather than a recycled. But, as I said, that was just the 3 of us, and it's open for discussion this evening, should you wish. So, any comments on that?
I think a wooden one would look more in keeping with the village and the green, and I think where it's going to go, it's quite visual area, so I'm not sure that it's going to be open to vandalism so much, because you can see people across the green, and like you say, that's going to be in the dark in the evening, so I think it's probably going to be quite safe from vandalism.
Okay.
But
Built a nice bench though, wouldn't it?
as all the others are wooden, it would be better to keep it on wooden.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, wood can be repaired easier than be sold in plastic.
There is that about it. Where damage to be
Well, that's how it's
inflicted, absolutely. Yeah. It took me a long time to find a picture of that bench in plastic like that. I was one of the better ones I found. But never
They're
mind.
not attractive, are they?
Not top of my list. Yeah. There we are. Okay. So the proposal is that we go for a wooden bench. Second. Right. Yes. Yes.
Seconded. All in favour?
All in favour?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed. Before we get to the tree work, volunteer work, I like to think we can get the Jubilee copse planted pre-Christmas. Certainly that would be the better timing for it in terms of establishing trees. I do need just to pop over to River Lane Nurseries and check that he hasn't jacked his prices up too much in the last 12 months, because we did agree a figure last December, I think it was. So I just need to check on that. The other thing is that as well as the 11 trees to put in there, I think it was, there will also be another couple of single trees put in. One will be a beech, and this will be down in Brands Pit. So if you're going from the green through Brands Pit, immediately on the left there used to be a big tall beech there, and the thought is to put another single beech there. Obviously currently it's surrounded by reasonably large trees, but talking to our 3 tree men that come round with me, I discussed it with them, and they felt that it was a good succession policy there. So that one will tend to grow, and by the time it gets a decent size, its neighbours will be coming to the end of their life. It's probably not this generation that's going to be looking at it, it's going to be the next generation, probably even the one after, but we are thinking ahead. So that's one there, and the other one was probably a field maple, but there's no definite decision yet, and that could possibly be on the wilderness. In the corner of the wilderness, we established a small copse, probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, wouldn't it? And not all of those have taken, so we will be looking to replace one of those failures with another tree, either there or as you go through the forest gate into the wilderness. If you were to turn immediately left at that point, after about 65-70 metres, there's a small oak that's about this high, and the thought is to put another tree just along that area as well. So those are the 2 areas we're looking at the moment. So, so obviously last year we signed off the copse. With these 2 single ones, it will be no cost to the Parish Council. So what I'm really seeking is permission for those 2 trees to be planted. There's hesitation.
No, I was just, they're memorial trees.
Sorry,
That's what I was.
I beg your pardon.
You
Sorry.
mentioned the
I
fact that
didn't
they're
mention
memorial
that, did
trees.
I? No, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
You'll recall we had a meeting previously when we suggested that we would welcome trees being planted in memoriam. And these are 2 requests
Yes.
to do so.
Yep.
And Rob, you mentioned at one point that the idea we would have a map showing where these things were, where which trees were going forward, so that's something that the Green Working Spaces Group is going to look at as well.
It's encouraging the tree, the ones you're aware of.
It's done already.
Yeah.
Done.
We've already started.
Yesterday's news. Oh, shush. So that's what this was about.
Thank you for adding to that figure. Yeah, so the proposal is 2 memorial trees in the locations I've discussed. Do I have a second for that, please?
Then seconded it.
Those in favour? With that, thank you very much. Which then brings us to the tree quotations. Hopefully you were all able to print off the sheet with its colours on it. Basically, this follows the fact that 3 tree surgeons go around. First one in the beginning of August, and the second 2 about 2.5 weeks ago. What we did as we were going round was to try and give some priority to what needed doing. Hence we've got A's, B's and C's with a V at the top there. And I'll put it down as a V because it's one that the volunteer group can do, and in fact they've already done it. So really we're looking at 2 down to 14, but not including 13. So we'll be looking at A's and B's. I have done this in a way that we are giving some work to all 3 contractors. By and large, it's done purely on a cost basis, but there are 1 or 2 instances when I have not necessarily gone for the lowest quote. And that's to ensure that we have some work with all 3, because we do get a lot of benefit from having those 3 brains go around the village and passing comment and helping us decide what we do with our trees. So hence it's been split in that manner. There are a couple of slight oddities, and I'll bring your attention to number 8, which is the veteran elm down Gravely Way. This is a hollow tree, and it's that hollow that when Pippa and I went round, I actually put my phone inside and pressed the camera, and we saw the sun, didn't we? Quite horrendous. And what that taught us was just how hollow it was, and on the basis of what I learned that day, we managed to get one of the chaps to quote for actually doing a significant amount of work on that tree, because there is a large limb that actually leans out over 6 Gravely Way, 8 Gravely Way. And that, when you look at it, it gives you cause for concern. So hence that's 660. But what you can see is that for most of the work, contractor number C was pretty good. So I wouldn't imagine that approaching either of the other 2 would bring that down much. The only other one was number 14, and why on earth I didn't notice that rather large hanging branch that's in the top of that tree. This is down Brown's Pit on the left, just before you go over the ditch there. In the corner there's a big beech with a very large tree, branch that's broken and is lodged up in the tree. If that starts disintegrating and raining down, it'll give someone more than just a headache. And as you can see, contractor number B has quoted us £100 for doing that. So we're looking at those spends that I added up down the bottom. So the red, 690, the green, 900, and the blue, 1210. That's a total of 2,800, which is actually, I was reminded by the clerk, under budget. Oh, thank you.
Brilliant.
So that's what I would very much like to do, and I hope that you've taken on board the reasoning for why we're going for what we're putting forward.
What would they do with the wood? Would it be as chopped up as left as normal?
That would be by and large left. Yeah, that's right.
I'll second that.
And 13, 15, 16 can be left.
They can. Certainly I more or less decided by the time I showed contract number C round that was so low on the priority I wouldn't go there. And he said, well, let me have a look. And I showed it to him and he said, I agree. So that was 13. 15 is well within a lot of other trees, so there's no immediate risk from that. And down Tide Lane, that's at this stage a little bit of a luxury. You can see that there is damage to the base of that tree, and it will require work eventually, but for the time being, it's not going to prove a hazard. So that's where we are. So I do have a proposal which was seconded by Rob.
All in favour?
All in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks Ian and Nicola for your work on getting the register done, getting the quotes and all that.
There we go. Thank you. Thanks very much indeed.
Well, that's it. Yes. Yes. Any questions for Ian on green open spaces? Good. We've done the next one already before you noticed, which is the church end houses. The next item is number 130, and here I have to ask Kira and Sarah to vacate the kitchen.
Does anybody have any questions on this before we go?
That's true. Or we can discuss and invite you back in if we've got a question. Yeah? Hang around. We won't forget you.
We'll keep it forward this time.
Well, exactly. That's what I was asked. So,
Can we stop recording for a minute? There's a seat at the bottom.
That's a good point, Rob.
your application has been approved. Right, next item on the agenda is we've had a request from St Francis Toft to look at their request for access across the green, and I have a proposal on this one, is that this is given to the easements working group to look at the wording that they've proposed and to do a report, to contact the common rights owners to discuss that with them and then present it to council for proper discussion. A second to that, thank you. Everybody have that? All in favour? Thank you. Because there's no point discussing until we've got something. Right, the next item is to consider the correspondence from Stop the Arc Group regarding the Cambs Arc and decide upon any actions. Interesting, not difficult, interesting. There was, I don't know if anybody gets the Hunt's Post, there was a very interesting, quite interesting article by the Mayor of St Neots in this last week's Hunt's Post, suggesting that perhaps this Oxcam Arc should go out and talk to more people about their proposals, because the proposals include 1 million new homes across these 5 counties, and he was saying that actually there was a consultation done, and I think it had 8,000 respondents, i.e. the word hasn't got out enough, I don't think, to the people who may be affected by this development. He was saying that before we lose our green open spaces, there should be more information passed out to the public. the Stop the Arc group started off as a saying no to the proposed Oxford to Cambridge Expressway. That was, they've changed their name since then, and the Oxford to Cambridge Expressway has been stopped at the moment. And now that their proposals, they want people to sign up to say stop the Arc. They say on their website 90% of people are against it. I don't know how much is in that. And we are being asked by Stop the Arc to sign their petition, to join in with them to say stop the Arc, to make comment on a consultation.
They've got a survey.
They've got a survey. So they've got a survey. The Cambridge to Oxford Arc people have had their initial consultation.
That was the one we looked at last.
Yeah. Yeah. So any comments from any members of the council?
I think 1 million homes are quite troubling, and we are targeted with that in Cambridge to have our share.
There are 4,000 homes proposed for. Just bear that thought in mind at the moment, and I'll tell you the name of the village that where 4,000 homes are proposed for. It's a place where there are about 10 homes at the moment, and it's just south of the A428. As you go towards St Neots, there's a little place called, begins with C? Croxton, thank you very much. There you go, so 4,000 homes in that little space there. You've got a slightly different, it's not within the Arc I don't think, but North Campbell, should that be proposed, would be 30,000 new homes in North Campbell. So across that spread, you'll have all this major development. Now, it's below Hilton, so potentially doesn't trouble the people of Hilton, but the pressures it could place on the infrastructure and everything could be of interest. There's a flying around.
So this group, Stop the Arc, they're a pressure group. And
Yeah.
They seem to be pretty well organised. The website's very slick. So, I mean, they're asking us to affiliate with them.
Yes.
Do we need to know a bit more about them, meet them?
Yeah, I guess my initial thoughts were that we should be saying to the people who are proposing the Oxcam Arc that they should be coming out, and, a bit like the A14 came here and to villages around and put displays up, and what are they doing to inform the people of these plans? Not a lot. What can we do to seek more information for the parishioners of Hilton? We could sign up to Stop the Arc.
Are we allowed to?
Nothing to stop you.
Yeah, not a government body, really.
Yeah, what would you like to do?
Well, on face value, I'd say I'd like to know a bit more about them, but they seem to be
They've gone through
very efficient. Probably teachers do things.
Yeah, they've gone through the no expressway bit, and they started off over in Oxfordshire, trying to protect some of the villages in Oxfordshire, and have expanded their net across the Arc.
I suppose the one thing that feels slightly uncomfortable about is that not all of this scheme is bad. It's the level of housing, essentially, it's the scale and the transport things need to be very carefully considered, but not all of it is a bad thing, whereas reading the introduction on their website, I got the feeling that all of it's bad.
Yes.
They want to actually get rid of the term of the Arc full stop as being a development opposition. So,
see, I read somewhere that Cambridgeshire could be in trouble of running out of water if the number of houses that are proposed in Cambridgeshire.
yeah, well, they're already on the stress.
That's it.
Stress.
Yeah. So what consideration does the Oxford-Cambridge Arc have for that? because I didn't read anywhere that they felt that there was any problems with water supply. So, as with all these things, protests are not necessarily, we won't always agree with everything that people are saying. So do we go back to them and say we want more information? Do we go to the Ox, Cam, Arc people and say we want more information? And then make a bigger presentation to the village on it. It's a huge development.
Because the information they sent us, like in the last meeting we had, there was a lot of information that came through. I mean, hundreds of pages worth. Nobody's going to sit and read through all of that, are they?
No, they're not.
And then reading this, they're saying that those documents say one thing, but actually they mean this. Well, we don't know, unless we've sat and read through all of those hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
We're not going to know that these are right or they're right, are we?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's difficult to comment on it unless you're prepared to sit and read through everything, or you're going to listen to somebody who's going to tell you the truth on both sides.
So maybe that's the answer, to invite them to come and talk to us at the next meeting.
Yeah. And when Doug invited me to meet up with him about the other planning application, I was going to take a chance to have a chat with him about this as well, to see what knowledge he has of it from a county council point of view. Because no doubt Cambridgeshire was signing up to it, one assumes. Just seemed shameful for the people of Croxton that the village was going to be decimated by, especially with what's going on the other side of the A428 as well. Just enormous. So, okay, what about a proposal that we invite them to talk to us at the next meeting?
Just to us, or an open meeting?
Let's invite them, see what they say, to the prospect of coming to an open meeting within the village. Why not? Yeah. And at the same time, invite the people from Ox, Cam, Arc, if they'd like to come along and respond to the people of the Stop the Arc. Could be pilot, couldn't it? Could be interesting. We could be told it doesn't affect us, what we get worried about. But I think it does. I think it will affect the area.
Yeah, there's 5 counties involved. There's 200,000 houses per county. That's going to affect us.
Yeah, it is. Could be nasty. So that's the proposal.
Second.
All those in favour? Thank you. Good. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is to consider any response to the Huntingdonshire District Council Landscape and Townscape Supplementary Planning Documentation Consultation. And this is a consultation that starts on the 15th of October, ends on the 10th of December, and has a link. Now, I'll confess I haven't clicked on the link at the moment, I'm sorry to say. Has anybody had the chance to have a look at it a little bit more? I think it's something that perhaps the planning committee could have a little look at and decide what our comments should be, and then report back at the next parish council meeting to put it through.
Is that a proposal?
Yeah, that's a proposal. Seconded by Sharon. All those in favour? Thank you. Good. We all should have a look at it. Let's see. Right. Item 134, to discuss and decide upon the request from the Village Hall Management Committee for Parish Council to run a firework event and light a beacon for the Queen's Jubilee. And this is there's a 4-day celebration from the 2nd to the 5th of June 2022, next June. And there's a nice set of events that have been laid out to celebrate this, which I did have open, yeah. So that it's coming. It was open. Right, and this says that Anyway, on the Thursday, there's a request, or there's a plan to light beacon fires across the country and across the cities of the Commonwealth for the first time. And on the Sunday, there is the request, there's a plan to have street parties within local communities. And looking at the letter from the Village Hall Committee, they're looking to have the outdoor theatre on the Sunday, or Ilia Theatre. I can't say whether that's outdoor or indoor because it doesn't say.
Outdoor.
It's outdoor. And they have, so Saturday, no, not Saturday, right, Thursday the 2nd of June, there's a Queen's Birthday Parade trooping the colour, and then the beacons, and there is a request that any beacon fire is lit at 9:15 p.m. Friday the 3rd of June there's a service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral. Saturday the 4th of June the Derby at Epsom and a Platinum Party at the Palace. And on Sunday the 5th of June the big Jubilee lunch, which is where street parties are looked at, and a pageant featuring over 5,000 people from across the UK and the Commonwealth will take place against the backdrop of Buckingham Palace. So those are the events that are the country is encouraged to engage with, and we have been asked at the end of here whether we consider lighting the beacon and provide fireworks to celebrate this auspicious event. And also, Councillor Chambers has asked whether we can use our croquet sets, rounders and balls to organise a village event.
I think that'd be really nice.
Which bit?
Well, all of it really. I think it's, it's something to celebrate, and if there are beacons being lit across the country, I think it's a good time to light ours as well, isn't it? So I would be in agreement with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Parish Council throw its weight behind this, and it's a great thing to do.
Okay.
I mean, just a couple of things, and it's sort of refers to something coming up on the agenda. Have we been asked for
No, they're still in planning stage.
Well, the theatre's been booked. Is that?
Just, yeah, it's still in planning
I
stage.
think we just need to really establish the principle that we are asked if we're going to be used for any of these events. But no, generally I'm really for it. It's great.
Fine. So what bits, as the Parish Council, would you like to be doing, or would the Parish Council like to be involved in?
The beacon and the fireworks.
Okay, fireworks. At what cost? And who's going to pay for it?
Is there any money left in the firework fund? I've kind of lost track of how many years. We had 5 years, didn't we? So
The firework, that donation was for the November bonfire.
that's for the bonfire
Yeah.
only. Okay.
And what we've done with that money is we've ring-fenced it to ensure that the annual bonfire display in November continues. So £1,000 per year over 5 years was taken from that donation, put into the fireworks. Let's say the fireworks cost £1,600. The takings have come in over that, they've been put back in the kitty, so that in years to come it's not got back to the stage where there is a shortfall. Because when we first came onto the Parish Council, 1 year there was a small profit, next year there was a loss, and you didn't know that idea of those, but that money was to buffer it. So the question is, how much and who's going to pay for it? Really, for fireworks.
Could we ask the Hilton Town Trust?
Come to you in a moment.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right, I'll come to the lady in a moment. You carry on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Could we ask the Hilton Town Trust for a donation towards it?
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
How much is, oh sorry,
Yeah,
how much is it normally on November?
we usually spend about £1,600. And obviously
Less that, so it's 14,
14,
1480.
1600. And we usually take that on the gate.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a free event.
Yes, but this would be, wouldn't it? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what the discussion is out
Yeah,
there
it would
for.
be free, I imagine.
I kind of.
It would be
feel
difficult to charge for it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't know. June as well. When would you put fireworks on, and at what time? I'm just putting out thoughts. You know.
Yeah.
Now the
Quite
beacon.
late.
The suggestion is beacons are lit at 9:15. There is, in one of the documents I read, it said sunset was 9:09. That at that time of year on that particular day. So yeah. So there's another thought. I'll close the parish council meeting at the moment. Lady from the floor. I don't know your name. Sorry.
Heather Woods.
Hello, Heather.
I was going to ask the same question. What was the cost normally of them? And yes, I think people are thinking it's free, but again, I think if donation buckets were put out, you would get quite a number of donations. And just of late, through the pandemic, I've lived in the village for 44 years. So there has been a lot of young families coming into the village, and I think it would be nice to get them after the pandemic to such an event again. So, you know, I think donations could be asked for,
Yeah.
and I think people would be willing to help towards that.
Thank you, Heather. Right, we'll open the parish council meeting again. So I'm getting the feeling that the answer is we'd like to do that. The parish council would like to do that.
Sounds like it needs a bit more planning.
It does, absolutely. We need to have a little look at some cost and other funds. And, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We
So-
need to ask the firework
Yeah,
committee as well, wouldn't we?
yeah, we would, because they're the people that are trained to set these
Yeah,
things.
whether they would be willing to do that in June.
Yes.
All the gentlemen keeps offering.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep a couple of sparklers back.
Rockets are better off.
Yes. All right, so I think therefore the proposal for this is that yes, the parish council would like to do that and do it on the 2nd of June, so a beacon fire and fireworks on the same event, same night. But we'll reserve the full commitment until we've worked out costs. And, no, we're going to say yes, we're going to do it, but we're going to work out costs and plan the event. And we have obviously again talked to the insurance company because there'll be an additional cost for putting on another event like this.
And so do you want to make a commitment to fireworks now, or just commitment to doing something on the day and various?
I think we could do a commitment to the beacon
Yeah.
and then just
An
reserve
event.
judgment on the
An event.
yeah, reserve judgment on the fireworks until
Should we have a little work group to see?
indeed. Let's have a little work group, a Jubilee work group.
Can I suggest those are two separate resolutions?
You can suggest what you like, really.
May I
Depends.
just add into the pot the fact that here we would probably be looking to ignite these fireworks, may I suggest, somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. That is some 2 hours later than we normally do,
Yeah.
and we're probably looking at the same venue. We need also to bounce it off Monarch Farm.
Yeah, you're
And
absolutely
they have to put preparations in place to accommodate us as it is,
right.
and that's earlier.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not just courtesy, it's the fact that we're going to be a bit later, and that give you problems. So that's a definite question.
Yeah, so that goes to that. Right, so resolution 1 is that we respond to this saying, yes, we will be looking, the parish council will be looking to do something on the evening of Thursday the 2nd of June. It's just looking at a little bit further at what it will entail. So there's resolution 1. Seconded by Sharon. All those in favour? Resolution 2 is that we set up a working group to do that, whatever working group does. do all the things that working group does, to present back to council with its findings, including talking to my farm, but you don't need that in the resolution. Sharon seconded that.
Who is on the working group?
Well, first of all those in favour? Right. Next, who's going to be on the working group?
I'm happy to do
Sharon, Sarah, Kieran, Rob,
Come on, Rob.
Ian, Ed, me.
Well, seeing as Rob and I kind of do far out, it would be a good mix actually, if Rob was on it as well.
So you've got 4.
At least.
At least, if you want 5. Andy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just suggest somebody obviously from the Village Hall Committee on the working group as well to synchronise and coordinate.
Oh, good idea.
Heather. You could ask Heather because she's Parish Council representative on the Village Hall Working Committee. So, but I'll leave that to the working group.
Would you like to resolve upon that membership
Which membership?
of the working group?
Yeah. I propose that Kieran, Sarah, Sharon, Rob are on this working group.
I mean, would you like to
No, exactly. I'm not volunteering anybody else onto it. The working group can request other people to go on it. Yes, Ian, are you on it?
No, I was just, I'll keep my hands on, I'm going to see.
Sorry. What time of candle is being blown out tonight? So I've resolved that. I'll propose that. Anybody seconding it? Yeah. Kieran or Sharon? All those in favour? Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. Right. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and decide upon a request from Hilton Parish. Sorry?
You didn't talk about the croquet and bowls. What, to defer that to a future meeting?
No, that's for the working group to decide because they're taking forward the proposal for the event.
Well, before we move on as well,
Yeah.
could I just mention about the query about moving the bonfire that's there at the moment?
Oh, yeah, sorry, because we haven't got...
Yeah, it's not actually...
It was a
set as
different firework
separate-
event, isn't it? Because that, yeah,
separate
Sharon, please
bonfire.
do. Yeah.
So, yeah, we normally ask Mike Richards to move the bonfire pile that's there currently with his digger. So we did that last year and every year, so that will be done. And the only thing we found last year was a frog, no hedgehogs actually. That's weird, wasn't it?
Thanks, Sharon.
It was wet enough to accommodate them, that's fine.
Yes, yeah. And if any, I have put it on Facebook groups, but if anybody has got some material, we are desperately short of bonfire
There's a
material.
few piles coming.
Oh, good. Okay. And help in the night, but we can talk about that later. After.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is to discuss and decide upon a request from Hilton Feast Week Committee to hold Feast Week from Sunday the 24th of July to Saturday the 30th of July with a marquee erected for a maximum of 2 weeks. So that was an email from the Feast Week Committee Secretary asking that, exactly that, requesting permission to hold Feast Week. I propose that we, any comments? No, I propose that we agree to that request. Rob seconded it, there was lots of yeses but no hands. All those in favour? That's everybody, thank you. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and decide on the request from the Hilton Summer Ball Committee to hold the Summer Ball on Friday the 22nd of July. Any questions, any comments?
I was just going to say, do you want me to abstain from this as I'm on the board?
An email from
It's
you?
not a pecuniary interest.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine.
Okay, then I propose that we agree to this request from the Hilton Summer Ball Committee to hold the Summer Ball on Friday the 22nd of July. Thank you, Kieran. Kieran seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much. The next item is to discuss and decide whether to inform the Community Garden Group that just like all other village organisations such as Feast Week, permission must be sought from Hilton Parish Council to hold an event on Parish Council land. We've heard a request that this item be scratched from the agenda because a request that permission was, notification of the event taking place was posted to the clerk on the 30th of September and that was acknowledged on the 4th of October. Anybody got any comment?
Yeah. So I've asked for this to go on the agenda, certainly not as any kind of public reprimand to the community garden. It's really just a question of just making sure that our procedures and respect for our policies don't get sidelined, that we rewalk this path and make sure that people are aware that they should ask permission to hold events on Parish Council land, and that they should give us enough time for it to come to committee so we can decide. It's just a courtesy, really, and it's a way of us making sure that our policy on how the green is used is adhered to. There are issues, for instance, like people selling things for personal profit in events, which is definitely not allowed on the green. So we need to have the opportunity to scrutinise those kind of things. That's the only reason I brought it up, was just to make sure that it was aired really publicly, and that we could just make sure that we all understand the involvement of the parts of the community and the village, that we all understand what's required by the Parish Council.
Thank you. I'm going to propose that the clerk writes to the community group setting that out.
I'll second that.
All those in favour? Abstaining? Sorry.
Sorry, I know you've made a motion, but I was going to just suggest that we just reinforce your point. This isn't.
Yeah, it's not a reprimand.
No,
It's
not.
just we just word it in that way. Actually,
Yeah.
make a point that we're not. This is your point. This is just making clarity that we just need to have policies and issues follow.
Proper notice.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. You. Abstaining? Right. Next item on the agenda, number 1 through 8, is to receive the financial reports. Okay. Sadly, what this agenda item doesn't say is agree precept, because we haven't had quotes in for the maintenance contract, so we are going to be going to the wire on this, really, because it will come up at the next meeting, the 4th of, sorry, I don't know what date it is in December, it's not 6th, thank you, and with a deadline for precept applications on the 17th of December. So we can't do that bit at the minute, because I know that I wasn't at the last meeting, I just remembered I wasn't at the last meeting when this was discussed, and the budget wasn't agreed whilst we were waiting for the tenders to come in, correct? So we can't do that bit. Anybody got any, there's a map, anybody got any questions on the financial reports?
Can I just
Yes.
query about the shredding cost for over £90? It seems a lot to
I think it was agreed some time ago, wasn't it? It was voted on.
It was 2 millions for our paper. There was paper in the loft as well. Two 4-drawer filing cabinets, a 2-drawer filing cabinet, and 5 archive boxes in the loft.
So that's just a one-off payment?
It was. You agreed it when Graham was chair. It was, I can't remember which meeting it was, but it was a long time ago. It was agreed that rather than paying overtime to shred, that shredding bags were bought to take it off site and use confidential shredding.
It just seems a lot, doesn't it? £90. Okay.
To put it into context, half of one of the filing cabinet drawers took me about 6 hours to shred using a domestic shredder.
Yeah.
So
And that's,
from a cost point of view, it's a bargain.
that's what you all agreed to do and paid for. And I guess it's just under 50 quid a bag, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that is the plus that amount, so you know, the cost to the parish council is slightly less than that.
Okay. Okay, Sharon?
Oh, that's fine.
Right. Any other questions? Anybody on the financial reports? In that case, I propose to receive the financial reports as they are presented. That was a yes, a second from Ian. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 139 is payments received, none. And number 140 is to approve the payments as listed. Now, this is green maintenance, £660, eco-tricity, £12.85, salary £950, 93, street lighting energy £115.38, cricket pitch mowing £90, Microsoft £11.28, service charge from Unity Trust £18, the tally counters of £5.99, street lighting maintenance £169.60, shredding £90, diffusion tubes £45.60. Are we still waiting for one more invoice?
One more invoice after this, yeah.
And the website hosting charge of £273.60. I propose that these payments are approved. Kieran seconding. All those in favour? Couldn't see Ed's hand. There's that. And then we come to the last item on the agenda. Councillors' items, information only, no discussion, no decisions. Where should we start with some? Ed.
Scott's Close. The repairs to Scott's Close. When I saw the contractors, they seemed to stop on Scott's Close instead of the cars parked, and they haven't come back.
I don't think they've done a particularly good job, have they?
No.
No, we're starting to flatten down Scott's Crest quite a bit. But they didn't, they blamed parked cars.
Thank you.
That's the only item I've got.
Thanks, Ed. Ian.
No, thank you.
Rob. Kieran. Sarah. Sharon.
Yes, bonfire night, this Saturday obviously. If there are any parish councillors who could offer some help, the plan is that Rob's going to be there from 9 to 11 in the morning to receive combustible materials. I'm going to be there from 11 till 1. And then the firework committee will be setting up the fireworks. So we really need people to be marshalling, and I did email everyone, but just to confirm, it's just really marshalling, and especially we don't want any bottlenecks actually at the gate. So but because we've got to count people in, it kind of makes sense that there's just two of us taking money on the gate. So what we kind of need is people marshalling on Rags Row, and then also walking around and asking, shaking the bucket to people sat in parked cars. Justin used to do a good job of that. So I'll be the nominated first aider. There will be, I believe, feast suite refreshments on the night. And I've done the risk assessment, and it's just really that first hour is going to be quite busy, and then the fireworks start at 7, don't they? And if anyone can help, just pop down and clear up on Sunday. We have a clear up from 10 to 11 on Sunday morning, just litter picking, and if there's any members of the public that can help, that would be wonderful. And we've got some high-vis jackets. And I will get a float this week as well for some change. I think that's everything. And let's hope it's a dry night.
Looking good at the moment.
Thank you, Sharon. I'll just reiterate what Sharon said. If anybody can volunteer to help on Saturday, please contact Sharon and Rob. I saw the emails today with the risk assessment, which is very good, thank you. And the timetable of the event, and again, also hope that Saturday night is nice and crisp and clear, which is what we want, crisp and clear. So thank you very much, everybody. That's it. Meeting closed.